When I was a young journalist, I was a fast-talking reporter, and I learned something from Steve Karakas, who was in the Danville Register with me in the same newsroom. He had a slow drawl, and he always spoke very slowly. And he said, well, you know, you're just kind of a fast-talking city person, but I find that when I speak slowly, people believe me, and they're not as threatened by me because I don't come across as knowing anything. I come across as just having questions. And I think that's a good piece of advice to remember. But I'm in the talk line, and so I keep thinking that if I just give you a rush of words, that you'll catch it all. We'll have more communicated in less time. And we are at, by the way, 800-8949, 800-8949. I say that because Lynn Talbott, who runs HRBizcloud Accounting, follows my earlier model, and that is to talk quickly, get a lot out there. Yes. And that's what I've instructed her to do that. I've told her to not be a slow, gracious, slow-talking Southerner, but though she's been here for 20 years, but to let out a torrent of advice. Give you, my listener, the small business, businessman, the entrepreneur, all that she has to offer in the way of bookkeeping, accounting, cash flow tips that are her venue in her business. Again, her name is Lynn Talbott, and it's HRBizcloud Accounting. So you're married, Lynn. Your husband's Greg. You have 2 grown children, Sarah, 24, and David, 27, and you're an entrepreneur yourself. Now, let's say we have just 5 minutes. Okay, we have actually 6, but let's say we have just 5 minutes. Lynn, all right. What does my listener need to know in that 5 minutes? The most important things for his small business, or if he's maybe starting a small business, those early steps. What in the way of numbers and money and accounting? What does he need to know?
Well, in 5 minutes or less, we like to tell our clients if they don't know what they're doing as far as bookkeeping and accounting, they need to hire someone to do that. It's okay as an entrepreneur, you're going to wear lots of hats, and I get it. You feel like you want to do everything or you know everything because you're an entrepreneur, right? You know everything. Some of the things about bookkeeping and accounting can really catch up with you and bring your company down quicker than you realize. So if you can find a bookkeeping platform, you can actually do a lot of the bookkeeping yourself. If you're one of those self-entrepreneurs, which I advocate for, do everything you can yourself, outsource the things that you can't. And I like to talk about cloud accounting because a lot of my clients come in, they're new entrepreneurs, and they say, look, I don't want to have an office, or I don't have an office. I've got my laptop and I've got my iPhone. Set me up so I can do everything from there. And that's what we do at Cloud Accounting. We make sure you know how to keep your receipts, you know how to properly document your meals and entertainment, and you get it all in one platform. We like to use QuickBooks. QuickBooks Online offers the entrepreneur an incredible platform at a really low price, and you don't have to pay a CPA to do your daily bookkeeping. So, one of the things that I like to tell people is if you have ever looked at QBO, which is QuickBooks Online, that platform is what about 95% of all new businesses and small businesses entrepreneurs use. It's like it's in the cloud, so it captures everything that you need to do. If you need to add payroll, say for instance, maybe you don't have employees now, but maybe you will in the future. Well, there's an app for that. You just click on the button and you add payroll. You need a point of sale system. You're selling something online. You need a Shopify. You need things like that to go. You don't need to keep them all separately. QuickBooks Online is amazing in that it captures everything and puts it all in one place for you. So think of QuickBooks Online as that center part, and you have payroll on the outside. You have maybe your point of sale. Shopify.
When you say on the outside, what do you mean by that?
Sitting on the outside, a lot of entrepreneurs will go and find different applications. They'll pay PayPro or ADP to do their payroll. That's great. Their mother or their child will help them count their inventory every night and put it on a spreadsheet. And then they use another spreadsheet to capture their income and expenses. And they sort of have everything, but it's all disjointed. The QuickBooks Online will pull all of that together with one click. You will never enter any data. You will actually click a button from Shopify or your payroll, your bank account, your credit card, and it pulls all the data in automatically. So that's what cloud accounting can do for you, and it saves you a lot of time, and it keeps you from missing things.
Well, now some data, though, is not digital. Let's say a receipt, you've gone to, you've taken the company car for a repair, let's say at S&S Auto Repair, and there's a $480 charge to that. Let's say you pay by the credit card, but you have a receipt. Now, what happens to that document?
Yes, so receipt
Perhaps
capturing is really important. And there's receipt capturing apps that you can add that actually import it directly into QuickBooks, attach the copy of that receipt right into that transaction, and it follows that transaction all over your accounting platform. But QuickBooks Online has an app on its phone, and you just set that receipt down and you take a picture of it. And then when you sync the next day with the bank or your credit card, if you've paid for a credit card, it will actually say, hey, I have a receipt for this amount, and you just bought something for this amount. Do you want me to attach these together? And you say yes, and that receipt stays in there. So your CPA at the end of the year can say, yes, that's a repair and maintenance, or no, that's an asset. We need to put it somewhere else. Having those receipts right inside QuickBooks Online is very, very helpful. So you can use the receipt app that's free with QuickBooks Online, or there's some really awesome receipt apps out there. Tally, Expensify. There's another one we like to use called Shoeboxed. And those are ones, if you just go online and Google quick app, expense apps or receipt capturing apps, you'll see. The number one for QBO is Tally and Expensify. Those are the ones that sync in and do all the work for you.
And they sync in with QuickBooks.
With QuickBooks, that's exactly right. And, being able to capture all your information, just, you're on the go, you're in the car, you're a contractor or you're an instructor and you're driving around. You get back at the end of the day or the end of the week or end of your trip, and you've got all these pieces of paper and receipts, and you stop for gas and you stop for lunch, and you sort of lose them. They get in a pocket, or they fade, or you just don't know where they are. And it's really, really important to keep your receipts. That's one of the most important things to do, is keep the receipts. So,
and this is David Tulis. We're talking with Lynn Talbott of HRBiz Accounting. Caller, and you're live on the air. What's on your mind?
Tell you what, I liked QuickBooks years ago because I'm not an accountant. But the thing I don't like about QuickBooks is the inability for you to make changes at the end of the month once you close the month. And I found a great app that I use called Invoice Simple from my phone that I could go in and manipulate it and make changes and update it and do whatever I want to do. If I want to, I can email out receipts. But QuickBooks, the only thing I don't like about QuickBooks is unless they changed it, the inability to change once you close out the end of the month. Has that changed?
Yes, you are in luck. That has changed. There's no more closing out. The only way it would close out is if you went in there, closed it, and put a password, and it wouldn't change. So right now you can, people just don't close their books like that anymore. But you have the option now to close them or not close them, and so you can make changes anytime.
What other things, Lynn Talbott, does my entrepreneur listener need to know about keeping records or maintaining cash flow and accounting for that?
Repeat the question. Like the
what else can we talk about?
Oh, for cloud accounting?
Yes.
For keeping meals and entertainment is another issue I see with a lot of entrepreneurs. They're a little confused about what it is and isn't deductible. And so if you're traveling, yes, you need to keep those receipts. And again, QuickBooks Online, you just take a picture of the receipt. And actually, the IRS now wants your receipts scanned. They want a digital copy of them. They're not going to come and go through boxes of receipts. To go ahead and scan those or take a photo of them. At least just take a photo of it. So you go to dinner with somebody, you're conducting a business, meeting. You write on the receipt the name of the person that you met with and the business purpose, and then you take a picture of it with your QuickBooks Online app, and you throw the receipt away. And that's the way that cloud accounting works now. And if you don't keep your receipts, the problem is if you want to deduct something on your taxes or from your business, then you have to have the receipt. If you're audited by the IRS and they want the receipts and you don't have it, you're at their mercy. They may or may not allow that. And a lot of times they will not allow it if you do not have that receipt. So keep your receipts. That's probably one of the most important things. Getting an app to do that for you is great. We also recommend you can keep your paper receipts. A lot of my clients will just open a big old manila envelope, stuff all those receipts in there, write July 2017, and throw it in a box, a dark place where it won't deteriorate. And then also keep the digital receipts as well. So meals and entertainment are really important, and when you travel, that's really important. Those are the number one receipts the IRS is going to ask you for. They're not going to ask you for receipts for your Verizon phone or your EPB. They're going to ask you for those business expenses that are sort of tangible or the things that they think that you may be fudging on. And you can't take your family to dinner every day and your spouse to dinner every day. It's got to be business.
So it's a lunch appointment, and you say purpose. What kind of detail is required for that part of the record?
Right. So you write directly on the receipt again. You write the name of the person, and then you write,
sales discussion or
exactly
hiring problems,
bookkeeping, advertising. Talked about marketing. Want to set up a time to meet. I'm going to talk on Nooga Radio. Talked about my forecasting or cash flow. You're talking to your accountant, your CPA, your lawyer, anybody like that. And really, when you go to a chamber luncheon or anything like that too, those are. You can write those off too. That's where you're making connections, but you do need to write chamber, luncheon, and
networking.
Exactly. So yeah, meals, entertainment are one of the biggest ones, and travel. You have to be very careful with travel. A lot of people will say, "Well, I'm going to travel to Florida with my family, but I'm going to stop on the way and do something that seems sort of sales-like." And those are the ones that are questionable, and those are the ones you would have to talk to your CPA about to see if they're really. You can really write those off or not.
Now, you're not a CPA, Lynn.
That is exactly right. And so I give advice on bookkeeping and how to get your books together so that when your CPA gets your books, they know exactly what they're doing. And there's a little place in there called Ask My Accountant that we put all those notations that say, hey, this is a little different. We're not real sure what to do with it. Let's ask the CPA about the tax consequences and the tax advantages of this particular transaction.
Now, how many of what percentage of your clients at HRBizcloud Accounting, Lynn, don't have accounts? They just use you and your bookkeeping services.
100% of my clients have a CPA. I really do not work with any clients that do not have a CPA because a CPA is super important for filing your taxes. Some people like to do their taxes themselves, but when they get a business and they start buying assets, they start having partners, it becomes so much more complicated. The tax structure just merits them getting a CPA, and I will find a CPA for them that would work with them.
What about my listener who does not have a business yet but is thinking about it? You are a businesswoman yourself. Tell us a little bit about your getting into your field, your area of interest, so that he might, in looking at your trajectory, that he might get some ideas of what he could do in his own field.
Well, do a lot of research. One of the things that I did was I went to the TSBDC, that's the Tennessee Small Business Development Center, and they have information about different franchises and different opportunities and what is currently in the area. So if you want to open, the big thing now I hear from my entrepreneurs is a lot of animal and dog startups going on. They're dog walking. Somebody's going to get a bus and take dogs to doggy daycare. We have doggy daycares, dog washers, a lot of pet sitting and pet things going on. And the TSBDC can tell you, these are all the pet sitters. These are all the pet, all the things in this area, in this, not only Chattanooga, but in this greater area and the country. And you can kind of decide, well, is there a market for me? Is there a niche for me there? And once you find out your niche, start doing your homework. Talk to people. Say, can I take you to lunch? Can you tell me what you think about this idea? And there's a lot of places in town like the TSBDC that will help you kind of walk through that business plan. And just because you think it's a great idea doesn't mean that it's necessarily marketable. I started out, the name of my company is HRBiz because I was an HR consultant, and I found out quickly that people needed bookkeeping consulting and not HR consulting. So you have to be willing to pivot. You have to be willing to get out there and take a risk, but also listen well, and be able to make changes, and don't just be, so hung up on your one idea.
Is it harder, Lynn Talbott, now to start a business than it was 10 years ago?
I don't think so. I think the amount of available, the people that are available and the opportunities that are available are just tremendous. You've got Startup Chattanooga. That's coming October 16th, Startup Chattanooga. So if those entrepreneurs out there, you've got ideas, you've got things you're thinking about, and you're like, I just don't know where to go, come to Startup Chattanooga.
Say more about that. What is it again? And who's the sponsor?
Startup Chattanooga is sponsored by, I'll think of it.
Is it Launch?
Launch, yes. Launch and Collab. Sorry about that. Collab. I just couldn't remember it. So Startup is where people come from all over the country and they get ideas. It's free. I mean, there's free breakfast and lunch pretty much every day. I think there's over 100 different opportunities and programs for you to come to. And these people, and I'll be one of them, teaching classes and helping consult people on what about their ideas and about their how they can set up their bookkeeping platforms if they have a certain product or a certain thing in mind.
Now, your expertise, Lynn Talbott, is the sort of the mechanics of the money flow and the numbers, and you're not necessarily though an advisor for business. Let's say reducing costs and increasing cash flow. Is that something? Let's say I have a small business and I've got cash flow problems. Do I come to you with these questions, or would you divert me, say, to Eric Pelton or someone else? Right.
Well, what we do is we help somebody get on a platform that works for them. What do you have? What do you need? Do you have a point of sale? Where's your money coming from? How is it being booked? What reports do you need? Or maybe you have a board, or maybe you have an investor and they want reports a certain way. We're going to get everything set up so that it works for you and works easy. Then when we get everything in there and you have continuous questions, if we can't help you, we will send you on to someone else. But we do cash flow projections. We'll help you with your budgeting. Budgeting's huge for all of you entrepreneurs that don't like budgets or you don't like forecasts. You need to get over that, and you need to get your budgets done right away. If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. So we set you up on a forecast and just say, hey, what do you think's going to happen? We know it's a pie in the sky, but you start and then you tweak that. Every month you'll meet with us and you'll tweak with that. And we'll say, what's reality? What's really going on? And then do we not have a good price point? What's happening? And that's how we tweak. We don't wait until the end of the year to say, not working so well there.
So you are a consultant for the operation of the business, my listener's business, whatever type it might be.
Yes.
Right, because there are general principles involved and you are operating on general principles.
Exactly. And mostly around bookkeeping, cash flow. We also do HR. So if you start to hire people, we'll do background checks for you and things like that. That's another really important note for entrepreneurs. When you start hiring people, I don't care how well you know them, they're your wife's friend or they go to church with you. I hear this all the time. If they don't have the skills that you need, that's not going to be a good hire for you. You need to do background checks, and then there's a lot of compliance issues with hiring people.
Do you recommend that my listener avoid hiring entirely, avoid the employer-employee relationship, and instead accept the concept of working under contract?
And that's a good question. Most entrepreneurs prefer to just start out doing contract labor because it is easier and you can control it a lot faster. But there is a point when that relationship becomes, in the eyes of the IRS and the Department of Labor, becomes an employer-employee relationship. And we definitely help out with that. That's probably one of the biggest things we do. Start out as contractor, and then we help you when those compliance issues are a little shaky.
Let's say the listener still does not want to go into that relationship, which brings regulatory headaches.
Exactly.
Are you there to say to him, okay, notice what's happening, this relationship is turning, and you're starting to control the process of that person's work, not just accepting or rejecting the final result. And are you there to say, look, I'm helping you not to avoid employment? So he would come to you for that kind of problem. He wants to avoid employment, and
yes.
Yet he's drifting into that relationship.
Yes. So when you start getting close to that, we'll need to set up parameters. Is the person sending you a monthly invoice? Do they have their own company? Those type things, you can always set that up to head that off.
Is the computer he's using yours in your office, or is it his, and does he pay you a rent to stay there?
Right. So yeah, those are some of the.
What are some other clues that would be in that direction? Employee or contractor? What's another detail?
Well, one of the things is a contractor is going to come sort of with their own skill set. They're going to know. They're going to already have their skill set. If you hire somebody to be a plumber or come do your yard, they're going to have their own skill set. So let's see what this listener has to say.
Caller, thanks for calling the David Tulis program. You've got Lynn Talbott on the line. What's on your mind?
Well, this is an interesting point, and I've dealt with CPAs with this for years. If you're not a corporation, your right to contract is null and void. You have to become a legal fiction of the state, employee, employer, or legal fictions. It's a master-servant relationship. And I've asked them for years to show me under Title 26, not some silly IRS regulation, but the actual law where someone's individual right to contract. And I've dealt with that over the years where I said, I don't want to be an employee. I want to come in and work 40 hours and pay me what I'm worth. And if I owe a tax, I'll pay it. And they cringe. I can't do that. Oh, you have to be an employee. Well, I mean, when have we become stupid sheep in America that we need master-servant relationships? I thought the 13th Amendment abolished slavery. So where under the law is that required under Title 26? And I'm talking about, some bureaucrat IRS agent saying, I'm going to make a regulation saying you have to do this if someone is in control of your labor.
Okay, listen, I'll cut you off right there. Sorry, but Lynn, what's your answer? You got a minute.
Well, the laws are what they are. I've got 8 seconds here. The laws are what they are, and we do the best to try to help that entrepreneur and tell them the risks of either or. And we can always get somebody on the phone to help us with that as well. So
Lynn Talbott, how can my listener find out more if he has questions? How can he reach you?
Hey, they can call us at 423-668-6020. That's 423-668-6020. HRBiz Solutions. This
is David Tulis. Thanks for joining us. And Lynn, thank you.
Have a great day.
We have an earful of what you need to keep in mind if you're going to be in the real economy, the regulated economy here in this the city and in the county. David Tulis, our show is every weekday at 9. Tell a friend about me. And hey, that'll double my listenership. That friend will double my listenership. Otherwise, it's just you and me. Every day, you and me. David Tulis, bow tie. Thank you.
AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
Does your business have enough clients? Are you confused?